workman up on the building site up there. It was a carpenter, he was telling us about it, and then the fellow that had actually happened to it, he was a plasterer. He arrived and then he told me a story about it. It was after dark, he worked till about, I think it was about 6 o'clock or something like that, to make sure it was quite dark. He went down to the creek to get his a tree fern. Anyhow, on the way back, after he got the fern, he thought he heard a noise in the creek bed at first, and he didn't take much notice and thought it might have been an animal wallaby or something like that. Then when he was coming back to the house, to his car, he felt something following him, so he just kept going. Then he heard footsteps, so he thought someone was after him, probably for the reason of taking the ferns. So he stopped for a while behind some bushes where he thought he was safe enough, you know, like out of sight. And this thing, whatever it was, circled him and it sort of come up around the hill, and it started walking. It was walking very heavy, right?
Yeah.
He said it sounded like someone walking with a gumboot half full of water, like galoshes or something. And he walked past the horse, the fella himself, Vic. He walked past a horse in the paddock. He seen this horse there, was, you know, he just seen it, and that was all pretty dark. And the horse never took any notice, and when this other thing walked past him, the horse started squealing and took off and panicked. It got a hell of a fright. And he thought then there was something funny, and so when he went to head off again, this thing got in front of him. It kept within 20 feet of him. He couldn't see anything because it was dark, you know, like it was up in the hill, there was a few trees there and that. And then this thing threw something at it. It sounded as though it was a stick or something flying through the air. And it hit the trees where he was standing. So he panicked and he dropped his ferns and he took off. Right? So he ran back to the car, grabbed his toolbox, put it in the car, and sat in the car, started the car and switched the headlights on. He thought, well, whoever's following him, he'll see come around the house. Nothing come around the house. He's sitting there for a couple of minutes. That's when this thing grabbed the back of the car. And it started bouncing the car, lifting it up and down, bouncing, and nearly bouncing him off his seat. It was bouncing the car that much. And it was a Ford Fairlane car, which is pretty heavy. And he turned around, put his arm up over the seat, turned around backwards to see who it was. And he couldn't see a head on it. All he said was this huge black, it was about that wide, he reckoned, across here.
Yeah.
Well, probably, he's saying that wide, I'd say 2'6" probably, across the chest. That's what estimate I'd reckon, probably at least wide. I don't know how wide I am.
Yeah.
And he couldn't see a head because it was too high, you know, it was too tall when he was looking through the window. Right? He couldn't see a head at all. Not that it never, one newspaper got it confused, said it was headless or something like that, but it wasn't headless. Right? He just couldn't see the head, it was too high. So he panicked then and he backed the car. He went to drive forward and the car wouldn't move. The car was either lifted right off the ground at the back or whatever. He thought the wheels might have been spinning, you know. So he put it in reverse and he backed back and he give it plenty of revs and backed back and he bumped it and knocked this thing over, and he says it was like running into a big tree or a big log. It just made a big thud, you know. And he heard it scrambling underneath the car, so he then drove forward. As in the rounded driveway, he drove right around to see what he'd knocked over. It was gone by then, but there was a tree beside the fence there where this thing had sort of fell through the fence. The fence was still shaking and the branches on the tree were shaking. Right, where this thing had got through, but he couldn't see it, so it was dark. And that was the only actual sighting he had of it, which he said he never actually seen it, only when he looked through the back of the car. Anyhow, he was going to go to the police then because he knew there's something funny going on, but he couldn't because of this tree fern business. So he didn't worry about it. He went up and then he thought he'd better, so So he went up to the police station. He plucked up enough courage. He went to the police station. There was no one home at the police station. This is in Emerald. So by the time he got home, he forgot about going to the police. He told his wife about it, and his wife reckoned that if he went to the police about it, they'd think he was a bit nuts, you know.
Yeah.
So next morning he got up. He went out and he had a look at the car, and he found all those handprints on his car, on the boot of the car. There was 2 huge handprints on the boot.
Did you describe what they were like?
Yeah. There was 2 prints on the boot. The fingers, I've got pretty big hands, and the fingers he reckoned were about that wide, about that fat through here.
Half an inch.
Oh, I reckon it'd be close to an inch wide. The fingers, yeah, because my fingers would be at least half an inch, and he said they were about twice as fat as my finger. Alright? And the fingers, the length of the hand was at least 2 inches longer than mine. And also he reckoned that where the thumb is, opposite, it looked as though there was another, whether it was been damaged at one time or not, but they both had it. It looked as though there was another sort of thumb on the other side. Now, the prints weren't moved at all, so he said the prints were perfect. Another fellow seen the prints, the plumber up there, he seen the prints next day. He came back to work the next day and he seen the prints. There was also a handprint under the bumper bar where this thing grabbed it, and the prints were all mud. Whatever it was had mud on him, right? That's how the prints were left on the car. But they were, you could say approximately at least 2 inches longer than the normal hand, and it was about 1.5 inches wider across here. I reckon it was about that wide across here, the hand. The handprint was bigger than the foot. Quite a few people seen the handprint, the plumber seen it, and I think the owner of the property, he showed him the print too, the handprint, right?
When did you find the footprints?
Well, the day he was there, he was telling us we was at the corner of the house. I walked out and he was walking in, and we was down there when he was talking to us about it, when he was telling us about it. We both looked down on the ground and we seen those footprints there, right beside where he was standing. Now, when this business happened with the car, that was about a fortnight previous to when we found the footprint. Now, the footprint was only there a few days, because all the land had been excavated, putting the stormwater drains and sewage on. It was a new house being built, and there was probably a lot more prints around there, but no one noticed them. They'd been all graded and dug over, so. And these ones were close to the house. There's a window in the house, and this thing, whatever it was looking into the window as the house was down. The footprints were only about 18 inches away from the actual brickwork of the house, and they're facing towards the window. It's a big window there, and he was looking in towards the window. That's why those footprints were still there, because they hadn't been. One print had been walked over and been squashed in. We couldn't get a casting of it. But the prints were about a good 3 foot, 3'6" apart, widthwise. Where it was standing, I'd say it was roughly that far apart. So I'd say about 3 feet sideways. Stride, about 3 foot stride. Well, we found other prints up in the where this thing had circled him, where this fella hid, and this thing circled him up in the hill. It's all loose sort of soil, right, and a lot of leaves and rubbish over top. If you scrape the leaves away, you could find the impression of this foot. Well, the foot was, like probably on the ground. The impression he left in the soft soil was approximately that size, but you could see him. And they were about the same distance apart. You could see where he walked up the hill. I'd say at least 3 feet apart with the stride.
When did the police get involved?
Saturday morning. This was on the Friday when we found a print, right? And I got the plaster to mix me up some plaster. I wanted mould taking of it because we didn't want it damaged, so anyhow we mixed it up and let it set, and it was too soft to dig it out that night. So that's the night when I went home Friday night. I thought I'd make a few phone calls inquiring about it, and I rang the police, and they wanted to come out next morning on the Saturday. CIB wanted to come out to investigate it, so I had to go up there with them, up to Emerald. And that's when they first seen it.
Had they been cast before? Had they been cast before the police arrived?
Yeah, we put the plaster in the print, right? But the plaster was still in there. The police and I dug it out. Sergeant Black, or who it was, we both dug it out with a couple of screwdrivers and chisels. They were there when I dug the print out. They went down to the creek, they investigated around and that sort of thing, you know, and then they come back and had a look at the print, and they both admitted. One, I forget the other constable's name, whatever he was. He was more convinced than the other one, and then even Sergeant Black in there said that it's something that he's never ever seen before, and he knows that it's. He said it could be someone that made up a cast and pressed it into the ground, but as far as I'm concerned, it'd have to be someone that's pretty heavy to push it down into the ground that hard, into that hard clay.
How'd the press find out?
Well, Sergeant Bill Black told me to get in touch with the press. If you want to follow it any further, he said, because a lot of people write into the press, they follow stories like this, and that's when the press got a hold of it. Now, another bloke rang us up. He had a run-in with one up at Emerald. He bought a block of land up there, a few acres. He was living in his caravan up there. He's clearing it a bit and ready to build a house on it. And it was also in the dark. He said it was around about 7 o'clock. And this fella's a professional dingo hunter. And up there he's, I forget what trade he's in up there. Anyhow, he heard this noise walking around his van. He said it sounded like an elephant walking. And he went out and all he could see was a black blur. It was dark and he seen this black figure moving. And it kept within 20 feet of the caravan. Well, it went right round one side of the caravan and it went away, it went up into the scrub. He come back into the van and then he heard it walk back round the other side of the van. And during the day up there, his dogs went off wandering down the creek. They're dingo dogs. And he said any time they chase something, they either catch it, kill it, or bring it back, or they'll come back barking and that sort of thing, you know, after their chase. He said they were gone for, I forget how long, he said, for quite a while. And he was getting a bit concerned about the dogs, and then he went to go look for them, and anyhow they come back and they were wagging their tails, they were real happy. He said whatever it was that had them bailed up, or what they bailed up, was friendly to the dogs. Now he believes in them, he's seen it, and he knows that it's something unusual. That was 2 years and 3 months previous to this footprint here. There's other people up there said that they've seen it, and it's been about 2 years ago. Apparently every 2 years someone sighted this thing. And they also, it's the same thing, it's a big black hairy thing.
Do you know the details of this sighting, not the one, the fellow that rang up, but just the other ones, or details of any of the other ones?
No, except one, the plumber, a friend of his, told him, so it's only a story that this. Oh, also this sighting, the one around the caravan, he found a half-eaten wallaby one day, and he reckons that it hasn't been foxes and that's eaten it. It's just been torn in half, like as if someone's grabbed it and just tore off half of it and ate it. And another, the plumber, he was telling some people, he went to the pub Friday night and had a few drinks, and he was telling a few of the people about it, and he said, one of the fellas there about 2 years ago, all about 2 years ago, he had this Labrador dog, and he had it chained up out the back, and it was in the night, it was always around about the same time, 7 o'clock, something like that, 7:30. He heard the dog barking, then he heard a yelp, then he heard nothing, so he went out, and it might sound funny, he went out to see the dog. The dog was lying on the ground. The head was completely gone off the Labrador dog. It had just been pulled off clean, bitten off. He said it wasn't cut off. He said it was just gone. The chain was still there. The dog was there. The head was gone. Never ever found it. That's the only stories that I've heard, because I haven't since then, as you know, I've moved up there and I've been that busy. I was supposed to go out with the other chappie who he'd sighted around his caravan. He wanted he was going to go up for the first couple of weeks, see if he could find some more prints, and then he was going to get me to go up with him, and I offered to go with him, and we were going to camp overnight in the creek. He was going to try and find out roughly where the thing lived, like where its actual hangout was. And we believe it's there. That's why the tactic went to sort of warn this fellow away from its, own environment there.